this one. So again, this is a new brand for me. It's a silk. Again, you guys know I love shiny things. This is a little silk bias cut skirt, and I have a thing. Let me just grab it. I do have a thing for bias cut skirts. I've talked about this on my TikTok before, but I think they are the most flattering silhouette. So I have this one and this one, which are vintage. And then look what I found on the Verishop app. This is just so like my aesthetic. It goes with everything that I have pretty much, and it really mimics a like vintage kind of like early to mid 90s bias cut skirt as well. This one is vintage from the 90s, and this one is, I believe, early 2000s. Both of them I got at Awoke Vintage, it's a little boutique in New York. But I mean, come on, this gives the same energy. Like it's so similar, but it's just beautiful. The color in the lighting in my room is not doing it justice, but they're so similar. And I mean, like, pairing it with the Ghani top, stunning. Again, you can really get creative, I think, when you are thinking about investing in quality, especially high quality basics. And honestly, my style tends to lean like a little bit more eclectic, but I think that something like this in like a solid color with like a very classic silhouette. And again, if you guys have bought anything bias cut, let me just explain what bias cut means. So you have your fabric, right? So like, here's your fabric. The threads and like the weave sort of runs like in vertical up and down ways. When you tilt it to the side, it's being cut on a bias. So it gives the piece of, or it gives the garment a little bit more shape and structure to it while still maintaining kind of like that flowy silhouette. I look for that with all of my like silk skirts. Clearly I have a thing for bias cut skirts. I have quite a few that I've bought vintage over the years, but I really could not believe that I found something so similar. And it's by this brand called Birgitte Herskind. I've honestly never heard of it before, but I'm really excited to shop and check out more of her pieces, because honestly, like, any brand that is making a like silk midi skirt is a brand that I want to know about, because that's one of my favorite cuts. And again, I think it's so beautiful and so flattering on all different body types. And I have gotten some feedback from my audience that folks have had kind of like a hard time finding this thrifted. So I think that this one is such a really great option if you know, don't want to spend time thrifting and just kind of want to pick something up. And then something else that I look for in my my silk midi skirts, because again, this is a classic item in my wardrobe, is like a lack of waistband. So like for this one, it has just like this kind of like seam here, and then this one doesn't have any kind of waistband. I like that this one has a very like subtle like kind of like non-invasive waistband, because again, you want it to sit right at your natural waist to get the most out of the bias cut shape. So again, like when you buy anything bias cut, it's going to just keep its shape because of the way the fabric was cut on the bias. So if you're buying something that's a little bit flowy, that was cut on a bias, it's going to maintain its shape. And the way that I would style this skirt, mixing mixing it, almost fell, mixing it with vintage, I would take my skirt and I would take this vintage Pucci silk top. Again, like, are we sensing a theme? I love shiny things. And then probably to add a little bit of spice, I'd pair it with the Susan Alexandra seed bead little bag. So for more of like a funky look, but we're still getting that like beautiful classic shape. And then you can also, like, again, the same piece, because it's such a classic item, you can pair with another classic item like the Ghani top that I mentioned earlier, and create kind of like a work a work look that you can take out at night, like pair it with like a bright lip and like some fun makeup and jewelry, and you got a look. So those are the majority of the pieces that I wanted to talk about today. But I also want to talk about, again, like my sort of like purchasing philosophy and why I think it's so important to invest in your basics. So again,